add to stream. So, first of all, we're going to the AutoHub show. We're talking a little bit today about our sponsorship. So, maybe Jeff, you can talk a little bit about sponsorship and the AutoHub show.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We've just finished our first year of having sponsors and some great sponsors this last year. And for 2022, we're moving into we're looking for some more sponsors, and we have some availabilities available, and our sponsors have found some great value with us. And so we can keep this cool stuff going and the cool production and the lovely software. Please let us know. We're happy to do season sponsorship, segment sponsorship, show sponsorship, and too many S's because I think I'm just slurring my S's now.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So, in terms of the show today, I have a couple of book recommendations here. So, there's a woman's guide to buying a car from one of our great guests that we've had on the show before. 1 second here. Got to admit a few people. And then those are Janet Guthrie. It's a race car lady. There's a book there about design, women in design and auto, and of course, A Woman's Guide to Buying a Car from Kathy Droz. If you don't know Kathy, she does reviews of cars. Auto show disclaimer, Jeff. It's on our website. Go ahead.
Our disclaimer basically is the views and opinions of everybody here in the show today are those of them, and we not necessarily do we disagree, but of course we're just making sure that that doesn't necessarily mean those are the views of Ian, myself, or the AutoHub show.
And definitely check out our website for more details. So the 2021 recap and automotive show. Let's start. Go ahead.
Well, good morning. This is the 2021 recap show, the AutoHub show for women in automotive, which frankly, in the men's opinion, are taking over the automotive world, and which isn't such a bad thing. There might be a kinder, gentler world of the automotive, but judging by the ladies that are on here today, men are going to be in the minority soon. So, and that's okay too. But we have a variety of ladies joining us today. Soon to join us will be Sandy Zanino from Sarasota, Florida, who's the founder and CEO of Innovative Auto HR, dancer extraordinaire on a hiatus due to her bum foot. And right now she's at a conference that she's just waiting to finish with a speaker, and she'll be joining us. Next, we have Sopo. I'm so sorry I can't pronounce your last name properly, but Sopo Choidze?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Perfect. Who is the founder and chief operating officer of Pulsar AI, Autonomous Intelligence, which is now part of SpinCar, luckily. Very good for you. She is a member of Forbes 30 Under 30 2020 in Georgia, the country, not the state. And she's joining us from Tbilisi, Georgia. Sopo, can you say hello and give us a quick recap of 2021 from your viewpoint?
Hi. So thank you again for inviting me. It is a pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone, whoever is watching or listening. So for 2021 for us has been very exciting because we got acquired by SpinCar, who is market leader in digital merchandising platform. So for us, I think it validated the path that we have set in 2019 when we initially started, and we are now seeing the result, and we are now seeing more customers using our product, which basically validates the journey that we've had. So it has been pretty exciting so far.
Terrific. Yes, it sounds like it, and I've seen some posts of you. You made the trek all the way over to, I don't know if it was Digital Dealer or something, but kind of nice to go from there to Vegas. So, which is boring compared to you. Next, we have Janice Showers, the Car Girl. Car Girl. Now remember that, Car Girl. And from joining us from Aurora, Ontario, Canada. And Janice, as we've been saying all morning, is a shy one. And Janice, can you just say hello and share your opinion on women in auto for this last year?
Well, thank you, Jeff, and thanks for having me on the show. Good morning, and you know what? I want to say thank you to all the men in the car business who support women. I think that's important, and that's something um, that played a big difference in my career. Is actually the men who helped me along and who were my mentors, because there weren't a lot of women to look up to. So I certainly appreciate all the men out there supporting women in automotive. I think there's a lot of good things that happened over COVID and over the last year. Um, Being technology, being flexibility. I think those are something that'll help bring women up in the car business, and something that, you know, we were just chatting about going back to work in the office. Um, I think we need to keep some good things, and that's the technology and the flexibility that has allowed women to play more important roles. And I think that's something that needs to be expanded upon. So I'm not one to look back, I'm one to look forward. So I think looking forward, that's something that I think a lot of dealers could get ahead by taking that and running with it, that technology, and offering that flexibility to get more women involved. It's funny, Jeff, you say that men will be the minority. We're a long way from that. You know, I read a stat that's actually from this year. Still only 8% of women are on the front lines. And I've been in automotive 30 years, and it was about 3 to 5%. So I don't think that we're quite there yet, that where men are going to be the minority when it's still only 8%. So the number's still low, the bar's still low. There's still lots of work to be done.
You know, and I'm not saying I'm arguing with you, but
I know you were teasing, but in all seriousness, there's
well,
still a lot of work to be done.
in all seriousness, no BS, no guy's position, no sucking up. It would be nice to get to a point in business where it's people in business. And I've been in this business long enough that I remember, and you broached it, not me, where they referred to the term as the girl in the back. And so that's the reason I say you broached, because you're the car girl. But thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your opinions. And I know there are going to be some more in a few minutes. Next, we have Christine Mitchell joining us, the car lady. So, you know, the two of you can have a fight over that title. And
car girls and the car lady are friends.
I did not know. Yes.
there we go.
You
And
have to help me to come up with the title.
the AI lady. Hello, we will take over the. Anyway, Christine's from Southern Ontario somewhere. And if you could take a moment, say hi, reintroduce yourself, because you're an old friend of us, actually a young friend who's been with us a long time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeff and Ian, for inviting me. Good to see you, Janice. Nice to meet you, Sopo. Thanks to everybody for joining on the call today. I'm Christine Mitchell, and I am the car lady. We host after sale seminars at car dealerships across Canada. And I was listening to you, Janice, a few moments ago speak about the girls in the back. I think we should also have a discussion about, when you talk about women in automotive, you're talking about a very wide, broad topic of women in automotive. There's women in the dealership, there's women in the vendor role, there's women in the OEM role, there's women in the technology role, there's women in all these different roles. And I think when we wanted the advancement of women, I typically tend to go to the dealership side first and see that number so low. And then yet on the marketing side, on the digital side, I see those numbers increasing. So there's a lot of women in automotive, encompasses a lot of different industries. So we want to make sure that we're being specific about what we're talking about, because I come from the dealership side. I know Janice does as well. And then our new guest, Sobo, comes from the technology side. So there's a space for everybody, but there's also advancement for everyone. So I want to make sure I'm clear about that.
And Jeff, just to speak to that topic, since we have yet to do the sponsor reel for the show, and since we're waiting for Sandy anyway, what I thought I would do now, and just out of order, is do the sponsor role, because one of our sponsors is a woman in auto. So here we go.
Who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Hi, I'm Gail Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of Retail Resilient. We teach car dealers all over the country how to sell more cars and make more money using social media platforms. Like I said, Who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Check us out at retailresilient.com or send us a message in the chat bar on the AutoHub show.
Hi, it's Barry here with White Glove Performance Group. Thanks for joining the show this morning. Always great content on here, and a big shout out to Ian and Jeff for all the hard work that they put into this show. Just wanted to say really proud of being a sponsor of this show. White Glove Performance Group, what do? We have a cloud-based dialing technology called Touchpoint. Touchpoint is used in dealerships all across North America. And the main reason for its popularity is because dealerships can now amp up their team to be calling 50 people an hour. They can leave a personalized voicemail, a custom email, as follow-up, all with a click of a mouse. This really speeds up some of the jobs that happen in the dealership, such as cleaning up your recalls, cleaning up lost souls in service, running a private sale, trying to reach out to your database to buy inventory. Obviously, we know that's the way to source it in today's environment. whitegloveperformancegroup.com. My direct is 587-899-6600. Love to have a chat with you about some of the things that we can do. But outside of that, I'm going to turn it back over to the host of the show, and hope everybody enjoys it.
Everyone, I'm John Latka from Automotive Business Solutions, where we help dealerships build more productive and proactive by-appointment sales cultures through our Performance Management Partnership Program. So, if you want to increase your sales volume by 2 to 3 sales per month per salesperson, call our toll-free number, 877-708-8484 for a free consultation.
Thanks very much. So let's go back to the show. So let's get into it. Jeff, go ahead. We'll let Sandy say something when she joins.
No. She missed the point. She missed her chance.
So you want me to start, or you want to start?
No, you can start, please.
All right. There's been a lot of press about gender equity in the world at large in the last few years. How has 2021 truly been for women in the auto business? Let's start with Janice, because I know she had some strong views on this.
I actually changed one of your questions, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
I think it's important to realize the difference between two words, and that's equity versus equality. And I'm sure everybody has seen that image of 3 people standing on the boxes looking over the baseball game. Do you know the one I'm talking about? And it's, the short one can't see because then they're all on the same size box. But once they put the tall guy down and they give the short guy 2 boxes, now he can see. So I think equity and equality are 2 different things. And I think that's something we have to look at. And here, I'm going to give you an example. And that's snow removal. My sister is 60 years old. She works in a dealership that's got a big line of trucks. And she doesn't have a great back, but she's out there cleaning the cars. And if she's not, I mean, there's this happens in the dealership. There's anger. I mean, why isn't she out there cleaning the cars the same as the 23-year-old guy? Why didn't she clean? They're counting how many trucks did she clean off. So I think there's still equity issues that need to be addressed, and they're complicated. I don't think there's always simple answers. But I think if more women are at the table, and so how has 2021 been? I'm worried that the whole COVID era has actually set women back in business, because women actually, as the primary caregivers, have had to take a step back to look after our children, who are learning from home, who are going to school in our living rooms and in their bedrooms, and that falls on us because we're the primary caregivers. So I'm worried that actually women have taken a step backwards, not just in automotive but in business. But like I said, I have high hopes around technology and flexibility, and I think like Christine said, it runs the whole gamut. It's not just OEMs, it's not just technology. It needs to trickle right down to the front lines, which is where I represent women, where I try and help women, is right on the front lines, because it's one of the toughest spots where we still see inequity where we still see women underrepresented. So I think there's work to be done.
Well, thanks very much, Janice. And that actually probably transitions real well to Sopo. I mean, obviously, you're a woman in technology. I know there's been a lot of talk about women in technology, but I guess what would be interesting would be women in technology, specifically in automotive. Is that different in your opinion? Do you feel that 2021 has been a good year for women in tech, or what's your thought on automotive?
Yeah, so I think overall, I do see that there's more interest in understanding technology itself and making a value out of the solutions that is built for an automotive market. And I do see the interest. And I also what I saw is more female leaders are referring their friends to start working at automotive and try to build solutions that will be tailored for automotive industry, because it might seem a black box for a lot of people out there, but at the end of the day, it's not, right? And if when you are especially when you are creating a solution and you are entering into a market where you haven't had an experience, that is something that sparks the enthusiasm and the joy. And I feel like women in technology, we are seeing more and more people involved in it. And I do agree there's still like underrepresentation, but I think we're on the right path. And yes, I really do look forward to that 2022, because I think I'm assuming, and we will be seeing more and more women-led startups to be involved in automotive space as well,
Thanks
because
very much.
very interesting.
Yeah. Christine, and Sandy's joined us, by the way, so welcome. But go ahead, Christine.
Yeah, to Janice's point, I completely agree. I think it also depends on which industry you're looking at. I think as far as technology, AI, marketing, automotive from a vendor and or aftermarket experience, there's been great advancements for women. There has been great advancements for women in a digital space. At the dealership level, we continue to be in a holding pattern. Now, the reason for this is twofold. Number one is, why aren't women applying for roles in the dealership positions? Do they not know that working in a dealership is a great place? And if they're not, why aren't they? And secondly, it depends on the dealership. I mean, all of us can agree that there is a difference process that goes on between working for a dealership group, where you see more advancement of women in a corporate setting than you would in, say, a privately owned facility, where it may be a smaller atmosphere, could be family owned, generational. So it depends on those factors as well. But overall, for women, not just women in automotive, I think at the dealership level, the women have been hurt with COVID, again, because of the working from home situation. But I think as far as the technology side, different companies having to do with AI, like I've had 2 conversations with women from Clutch this week, right? They've never sold a car in their life technically, but they work in the technology side. So it's interesting, the 2 different dichotomies there. But I think that there's been some advancements in one area and much less in the other.
Sandy?
Hi, everybody. So good to be here with you all. I'm actually oh, wait a minute. My video is not on. I was too busy trying to figure out how to get my AirPods going, but I'm at Women in Automotive in Orlando. So I'm so happy to join you with this conversation. And anyway, so I just finished my AirPods. So let me listen in, and then I'll join in later.
Okay. Thanks. So Jeff, next question.
I have a question here that actually asked, and Christine, I think you answered it, asked and answered, to use the term you see in court TV shows, but women have been rising in the ranks in senior roles, OEM suppliers. I mean, here in Canada, just recently, Mercedes-Benz got out of the retail business and sold their last 7 stores to 2 groups, but they joined in as partners on these stores. And the president and CEO of Mercedes Canada is a lady. Of course, everybody knows Mary Barra in the US and GM. But Christine's given us her opinion. This hasn't trickled down to the level of dealerships. And I have a tendency to agree, coming from a dealership background, that most of the people I know, it's still women are sort of an anomaly in all but admin roles. And I'm going to ask the other ladies here an opinion. We're going to ask Sandy, because she's the new joinee. Do you think that the rise in women as leaders has trickled down to dealerships?
You know, I think that there has been a little movement. You know, the fact that we know all of the female leaders and pretty much can name them kind of says, you know, out of eight, because in retail in this country, there's 18,000 dealerships. I just learned that in Canada, there's like 3,200. So, you know, no, I think that we need to, I'm not sure what is going to move the needle. I think that it's going to be a collaborative. I also think that women of color, if you know me, you know that I am a diversity, equity, and inclusion champion, and it's something that's in my heart and also has been a part of who I am for a lot of years. And I have a firm belief that if we lift women of color, all women win, right? The unspoken and the unseen. It's tough as a woman in this industry sometimes to be the only one, the only woman in the room. And personally, this is just me personally, I have to acknowledge the intersectionality of having a double only, right? Which I don't have. You know, so I think we have to we've been talking about this and turnover for a very long time, right? Women, the numbers the needle has not really moved. It's still, you know, 17 to 19% female in retail. I think if you add OEM and that, you know, it ends up being like 23%. And it's been that way since I've been here. And I've been here a while, right? And you know, it just hasn't changed. So you know, I don't have all the answers, but I do believe that if there's really going to be change, it's going to have to be collaborative from all sides, from vendors, the OEMs, in diversity, equity, and inclusion, because I have come to believe that the reason that that needle hasn't moved in turnover as well, because turnover for women in automotive is so much higher than women in sales at something like 99% or something crazy like that. The last NADA workforce study I saw. And so to me, that is a symptom of the opposite of the exclusive environment, the opposite of inclusion that we live in, right? That we work in on a daily basis. So I think it's going to take a lot of collaboration to move that needle. So as we say on Clubhouse, I'm going to mute my mic now.
Well, hey, our show's all about talking, not just muting. But it's a very interesting point that you made there too, that Canada has a much higher per capita ratio of dealerships to the US. We're generally about 10% of the US population, yet we have literally double the per capita dealers, which means there should be more opportunity for women here. So as Janice already mentioned a little bit earlier, it's really not. In fact, Janice's percentages are lower than Sandy's, but of course we all know that there's no real strong surveys done of this. But Janice, what's your opinion? As we all know, of course, that on the sales side, it's brutal, the numbers for the turnover for women. And that doesn't matter wherever I've been. And when I ask Sopo, I'm sure she'll probably tell me that out in their neck of the woods too, it's something like that. But Janice, I'll get you to touch on this first, and then I'll go to Sopo.
You know, it's funny how even Sandy couldn't say yes when asked, has it improved? Has it improved? I mean, that's what you guys are asking us. And we're all struggle. I can see it in Christine's face and Sandy's face. We can't say resoundingly, yes, it has, because the answer is no, it hasn't. Not in sales. And it's funny you talk about, actually, Hyundai Canada is an OEM who has made a concerted effort. They found in a survey, um, when you look at dealer bodies, it's about 8% of frontline dealership roles are held by women. So it says it's statistics like this that really highlight the importance of empowering women, especially in the automotive sector, um, for female consumers. And it actually talks about female consumers, which are sometimes have been turned off to even just that whole automotive experience hasn't encouraged women to join the ranks. And I think it's complicated, and it's not going to be one solution that's going to solve it. But I'll tell you, if women are part of the conversation, and not just women, I mean, I like what Sandy said too about diversity, inclusion. We talked about equity versus equality. More diversity gives more perspective, a richer perspective. And it's not just about women, it's about people from different backgrounds, different cultures, people with disabilities, for example. Where do you see people with disabilities represented in automotive? I don't see it. And I think it's got to be broken down into very small pieces. So, for example, the turnover of women, Sandy's right. It's actually, I read it, NAD stats, 95% of women who start on the sales floor do not see the first year. So you had said 99%. So why is that? Like, let's look at that. And it starts on the first day of work. So I'm going to give you an example. Women they come and they're not sure where to park. It's something so small, but even just what does the daily routine look like? So they get there on the first day, they don't know where to park, they don't know where to go, they're nervous about coming into the showroom, they sit down at a desk, the first thing they see is a full box of cards from the last person who didn't work out. But it's that experience from day one. Like, why isn't that working out? And then, just the whole environment on the sales floor, it's not conducive to a woman being successful. So I think it needs to be broken down in small segments and looked at. And it's just, I'm hoping technology, we talked a little, I'm hoping technology levels the playing field a little bit, because I think it does. And I think it gives women more opportunity. And I think in the future, dealers just need to, on that level, need to look at that. Okay, a day home, a morning home, working on the CRM, making calls from home, the DMS giving access, having a VPN in your house so you can access customer data and work from home. All things that need to be expanded upon to improve the experience. And one of you guys had this question and said, what are the biggest hurdles facing women in the car business today? I changed it. I said, what are the biggest hurdles facing the car business with regard to employing and retaining women as both employees and customers? So it's not the women's, it's not our issue. The car business, it's your issue. And they need to make concerted efforts. We need to see more good stuff happening, like what Hyundai Canada has been doing with an employee resource groups, and they've dedicated women to further their careers in the industry. And that's something I think we need to see from dealer groups, that's going to go right down to the showroom floor.
Can I just speak to that for a second, Janice? You have hit the nail on the head there, my friend, because I'll tell you, when I was back in the shop as a technician, I was trotted out for every photo op, and I was treated like heaven. And because they wanted a woman in the shop so bad that I was treated extremely well. Like, I got along with the guys, I did my work, I lifted my tires, I did my work, right? But at the same time, the ownership treated me extremely well because there was a woman in the shop and they needed that diversity. When I went to the showroom at the same dealership, because I was expecting a daughter and there's no maternity coveralls and I had to get out of the shop, I went to the showroom. I was treated like crap in the showroom, not by necessarily ownership, but the other salespeople, right? And I'm not throwing everybody under the bus, and this is not a sweeping generalization, but how could somebody who worked in service, who moves to sales, be treated so differently? Because it's a competitive environment that pegs people against each other and doesn't reward necessarily the hardest work, but the highest gross. And so, as a woman, that was interesting to me to have that experience. So, Janice, I want to say that's wonderful. Congratulations. You hit it right on the head, my friend, because in sales, Sandy will speak to it too. The turnover's so high because from the first day you walk out to that showroom, be prepared because they're gunning for you.
Well, the truth be known, it's very true, and I've seen that firsthand, but it's also part of the sales culture. Before I go to Sopo, Sandy's got her hand up and she's going, oh, me. So Sandy, quick comment, and then I got to go to Sopo. She's sitting there raring to go.
Oh, Sopo, I'm so sorry. You know what? All right, I will make this really fast because
Enjoying the conversation, so not a problem.
Janice said so many things, right? Naming our diversity. And you're absolutely right. Diversity isn't just about women, right? I mentioned women of color. It's all the other things. Actually, let's cross fingers that in Tampa Digital Dealer, I'm putting in for another DEI a panel that covers all that. LGBTQ plus, Latina, it's something that we have to look at. Another thing that we don't really, that you mentioned, Janice, is like, our customer base is also our candidate base. So we need to pay attention to that. I do think that you're so right. I was like applauding with it is Automotive's problem. It's not our problem. We're often so focused on, well, how do we lift? How do we make them ready? How do we level them up? We're level. Okay.
I'll go to Sopo, and then there's a comment to be made from Roger, which we'll mention. But Sopo, in your opinion, I mean, for us, seeing as how most of our audience is over on this side of the pond, what do you see over there? Is it, obviously you're in a senior role, and good for you. And are we seeing senior roles at the dealerships level from your opinion?
So I can't really speak to from the dealership's point of view, but the customer base that we have acquired, more and more people are that we connect with are women. But coming from a technology perspective, what I can say is that in automotive space, in regards to being like a vendor or a technology provider, right? There's more accessibility towards how women can structure and position themselves. So, and it all comes down to like giving an access to the capital, right? To do and start their own business and position themselves and create a creative solution towards the problem that the automotive market can have. And I think it's more of like I think it should come down to from a top to bottom, because like from what I can say from our experience is that in our office we have 6 departments and 4 of them is ran by women, which I'm always like promoting, and I do feel like they all have a success story that they want to share, and my personal goal is to enable them to share that success story with others, so that they can feel more confidence in making the decisions that they're making, right? So I think it all comes down to what core values. It doesn't matter whether you're like a GM or an owner of the dealership or a startup that you would like to create solution for an automotive industry. I think it comes down to what core values do you have, and in our perspective, it's all about collaboration, as you've already said, integrity, inclusiveness, fairness, honesty, and giving the equal opportunity to everyone, regardless of their maybe like race, age, or whatever.
Well, one thing I can say from dealership experience that the industry has to change is attracting women at the dealership level. Because every time I would look for staff from the sales side, just literally it would be 1 out of 30 would be a female applicant. And, frankly, at the moment in the car industry, I think more women should apply because they're looking to hire, period. And Roger, you made a comment and you had a download of a document. If you could just take a moment and comment on that, and thank you for your comment. Roger?
It's probably muted.
Yep. Okay, we'll move on. Thanks. When you get a chance, Roger, let us know. Ian?
I'll see if you'll unmute. One sec.
I guess, can I just say, the question I want to ask is why is no one applying to your dealership, right? Why if you say we want more women, what's your plan as a group, as a dealership, to get more people in the door? I get asked this question all the time. Christine, how can we get more women technicians? Have you ever opened the doors and let them see what actually goes on there every day? Like, it's such a buyer's market today. People can work. There's lots of jobs available. We know that. What's Automotive going to do to promote their industry as a one that people want to work at, that women want to work at? Like, if I was a waitress and I could work at any restaurant in town, when I look at the website, I better learn why I want to go and work there. You don't see that on dealership websites. You don't see that side of it, right? Why should I come and work here? I think is the question we need to answer.
Now, before, I just want to ask a quick question then. Why don't more women apply for these jobs regardless? Janice?
I don't think they see it as an opportunity, but I wanted to speak to Roger's comment in the chat box. It said, until it can be proven that women can add to the bottom line as well or better than men, it won't change. You know what? This statistic is old. The fact that women contribute, it's not just women. Again, back to Sandy's points about diversity. Here, I'm going to give you a stat. The Pearson Institute for International Economics completed a survey of 21,980 firms from 91 countries. They found that having women at C level executive positions significantly increased net margins, and that is a fact. That's business wide. You have more women, more diversity in executive positions. You have more women involved in hiring and planning, in finance and technology. You get a better bottom line. So that's already a fact. That's not even. It's already there. And banking is actually a really good is a good industry to look at. Banking a long time ago started hiring more women in finance, promoting more women in the C-level executives, and they've seen a difference. Banks who have made an effort have seen more profitability. So that diversity in women at a higher level brings profitability. And again, I think it boils down to the front line. I think they have to make a real effort. Compensation isn't fair. We talked about compensation. In fact, I've often thought about that when I think about really breaking it down. How could you make it work for women with the commission structure? And I hate to say it, but the boys club that's in the showroom that got each other's backs. I even thought of perhaps a salary base where they don't have to worry about exactly how much they're going to make for the first year, where it's like you can talk to all customers. It's not just about, oh, that's my customer, or that the whole looking after the customer as you know, as a group, and covering off for each other when you have to go pick your kid up or you have a sick kid, that you're not going to miss a deal. You're not going to miss your customer walking in because, you know, you had to go to the school or take a kid to the doctor. I'm not going to miss, you know, and what's good for women is good for men too. Because believe me, it's not fair for men too, and I've seen a lot of unfairness and not equitable for men as well. So what's good for women is good for men on the showroom floor as well, and not a lot is said about that, about what happens to men and how they get discriminated against from different backgrounds, from different, you know. I know for a fact of one place where if a man takes time off, you know how a man can have part of the mat leave, the parental leave now. I heard of where it's an unwritten rule that if a man takes a parental leave, he will be terminated in the next when he comes back. So, you know, there's not a lot that's said about that either. And I think, you know, like a fish isn't going to get better sitting in the drawer. I think we got to bring it out, throw it on the table, and cut it up into small pieces and figure it out one piece at a time. It's not one thing that's going to solve this issue. It's working on working with individual people, working on policies, on processes, on little things that happen. You know, I'd like to see signage in the dealership. I saw a sign recently and because everyone is short staffed, and it had said, you know, just about inclusion and kindness. I think even workplaces, dealerships could use that just to remind staff and teams what kind of behavior is acceptable and not acceptable. Because I think in the moment we it's easily forgotten.
I saw a sign the other day. I think it was at a fast food restaurant. It said, "If you're not happy with the service, we're hiring. If you think you can do it better than the people we got now." But the other thing, and I think this came up with Janice, you got to look at industries that have had success attracting, retaining, and growing women in the business. And what comes to mind in addition to banking to me is real estate. When I look at real estate salespeople as a role, the lion's share, a large percentage are women, and you got to ask the question why? Why are they not looking at the learnings from these different industries? And technology, I think, has made some inroads, but even they got a long way to go. I mean, you know, big technology companies have been sued multiple times, and people have left because they just don't treat people properly. And to Janice's point, they don't treat people properly in a lot of ways. I mean, you look at the big resignation in the U.S. market, and everyone's looking for a reason. Well, a lot of it is just, have you asked the people who resigned? Like, why are you leaving at scale? Like, millions of people.
On Clubhouse, in the Clubhouse rooms, a lot of the Clubhouse rooms, Ian, they talk about all the time, I'm leaving the dealership, I'm going to the vendor world. I'm leaving the dealership, I'm going to the vendor world. I can't hack it at the dealership anymore. I'm going to go and be a vendor, right? Because it's just it can be such a inhospitable work environment. That's for sure, right? We've all been there.
And that's not that goes across both men and women, you know, and that's a fact. You know, I can tell you firsthand, the car world it's not just the car world to a certain extent. I mean, Janice, you talked about a man taking parental leave. Frankly, unfortunately, there's one of those infomercial shows you get locally, and there's an employment lawyer that does a show here, and they talked about a fella that needed to take time off because of mental health, and that's a big topic too, and he got fired. And what was he entitled to for severance, etc.? So that's definitely a fact. That's a good point, Christine, too, that the dealership world is unfair on the variable ops and the sales side to almost everybody.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I love the car business, right? Yeah. I would love to recruit all the women that I know to come into our industry with us, including my own daughter. She's now working on the marketing side of things, right? But, you know, when I meet these young women now, and I'm sure Janice and Sandy feel the same way, Sopal, you'll feel the same way as you get your years in automotive as well. The goal now is to support each other and to have these conversations, because as the next generation comes behind us, hopefully we can make it just a smaller, more inroad, just a smaller, more inroad, to have that voice at the table that says, here's, you want to have more women? Here's what we think. Here's some easy steps, and actually see it get implemented. That's the key. We all want to be, I love the car business. I know everybody does too. And I'd like to see more women be a part of it.
Yeah, so to say to that, I mean, we're talking about the biggest hurdles, but what would be sort of the top three things, whether it be an OEM, whether it be a vendor, whether it be a dealership or dealer group, that dealers could do? Let's start with Sopo. I mean, she's obviously doing on the vendor side, but maybe she has some thoughts.
Yeah, so I think I think education plays a huge role, to be honest, like trainings and constant feedback, in terms of what is the um, what is the thing that we would like to promote and how are we going to promote it. I think it's very important. Also, I think seminars on the leadership is very, very important, just for them, just for people to understand what their opportunities are out there, because some people don't really understand that, and that is why the stereotype against, like, us breaking through the boys club comes in, right? So I think the situation is real, and there's no way around it. Of course, it's a male dominated area, and we have to do our best to break through the boys club, right? It's just, how do we want to do it, and what are the potential outcomes that we want to get, is something that we need to educate each other. So I think it all comes down to understanding what our capabilities are and what the potential is out there.
Thanks for that. And obviously, you broke through on the technology side, so you're doing a lot of things right, in my opinion. So congratulations, Janice. What do you think?
No, I would agree 100% with Sopo saying education. But on that point, like when I was listening to her, I was thinking about education and training. Automotive definitely needs to put more effort into research and educating themselves on, I'm going to speak to Sandy: equity, diversity, and inclusion. Those are the three big words. But what I'd like to see, and because I've seen it in a dealership before, and it made me think of this training that was actually required by, I don't know if it was federal or provincial, but it was working with people who had disabilities for frontline workers, and on what to do on when they came into your environment, as a sales let's as a salesperson, how would you handle a customer who had a disability? And I was interested, I was asking dealerships about how they were handling this training, how it was being implemented, and unfortunately I found the answer very disheartening. As you often see in a dealership, there'll be one person who will log into the training and do everyone's training. Okay, so one person, and all they're doing is just keystroking and completing the training for everybody. So I think we actually need to see it implemented for real. And I think some checks and balances to make sure that the training is executed. And that's not just somebody on the other end of a computer, just check marking the boxes for everybody else. And that's frustrating for me when I see it firsthand. And I think that's one of the issues in training and education at the dealership level. Okay, they hire somebody who's making minimum wage, and they're taking the training for everybody, and that's a reality. There's what's going on. So we've rolled out these programs. We've set this education and training, but is it really getting to where? How would we know a good one if we saw it? I don't think that measure is in place. How do we know that those individual people have been educated and they have been trained? I think that's tough, especially with technology in an online, in an online environment.
It's a very good point that you made, because again, you've touched on two things which have come up time after time with us, show after show. Two big problems in the industry are the compensation plan at the retail level, how it's done, and training, because most dealer principals that you ask, they go, we got a great training program. And then they say, what? Well, we hire the person, they stick them in a room and they watch videos. Or somebody else, some admin person goes and supervises it.
Yeah.
Ian.
Or does the training for them.
Yeah, that's
or does the
tricky
training for them.
Well, that's the manufacturer's training, and then they don't understand why salespeople don't understand their product.
And actually, it's government training I was talking about that was working with people who have disabilities, and that was part of the equity, diversity, inclusion legislation from the government into any retail business. So any retail business, I know in the province of Ontario, anybody dealing frontline with customers had to take this equity, diversity, and inclusion training. And what happened was, in almost every instance, it didn't actually go down to the frontline people. There was one person, an administrator in the dealership who just checked the boxes for everybody. So that although that was a government initiative about diversity, and it just didn't, in my opinion, it didn't happen.
Right.
So the effort was there, the right intention was there, but it didn't execute down to the front line. And there was nobody there to, again, to inspect what was expected. There was no inspection. So if we're going to expect something, we have to inspect it. And we know that as managers. So like when we put forth that sort of training, where's the inspection that it happened?
Okay. Christine?
Yeah, the training, they say, is what everybody's going to be spending their money on, right? Training. So yeah, you've got to have that accountability piece. It depends on what you're going to train, who's you're going to train. You can't just have, it has to be part of culture. All the time, again, on Clubhouse, which I've been enjoying, everybody talks about customer experience and culture, right? So I think that if you're going to offer these kinds of trainings, then you've got to think about those components and what it really, really means. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts of what it really, really means. We've offered the events at dealerships who've wanted to increase customer experience during the delivery process to get people from sales into service. What does customer experience in service really, really mean to you, right? And again, to the point of that Sandy made about having the customers be the potential employees, what does that look like as well? So there's just so many questions here. It's such a huge topic, right? I'm just glad to be a part of the conversation.
Thanks. Sandy?
So much, right? Sitting here listening. I thought I had my three things right away, and then I'm listening to Janice and Sopo and Christine, and I think we need to somehow find a way to make it okay to change our hearts, to change the heart of power, right? Like the seat of power is the seat of power. And unless there is the willingness and making it okay, like
We lost you.
You got a little bit of bandwidth issue there, Sandy.
We lost you.
Man. I think, can you hear me now or no?
Yeah.
No, it's telling me my internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hey, well, I'm
Okay.
unstable, so it really doesn't matter about my internet.
Well, we need to also make mental health is also an aspect of diversity, right? Like making it okay and safe. What I was talking about was safety, right? So we need to make it safe for candidates. We need to also create an environment that is safe for the seat of power to say, I need to change my heart somehow. Can you help me? And that goes to education, to Sopo's point. Like we need to learn. Our industry, I think, sometimes has the tendency to say, well, two things. One, all those studies like the McKinsey study that I love that shows that racial and gender diversity will help a company outperform their cohort by 36%. We say, but that's not the automotive industry, right? Like, it's not really us. so making a safe space and with policies instead of that, like what Janice shared, like that's like we need to move away from the ticking the box to creating a and zero tolerance to learning opportunities, right? Unless something is so egregious. I feel like people right now are in a place where either they're afraid to say or do the wrong thing, so they do nothing, or they're not sure where to start. And where to start always is with the data. Look at the data, do an HR audit, look at your pay plans, look at everything. Dig in and look at it all, man. And then come up with a plan. Where do you want to focus? And come up with a strategic plan that works for your business. And get some help. Don't do it alone. Get somebody that knows what they're talking about.
And Sopo, any thoughts from Sensitives to Time? We got a couple minutes left. Any final thoughts?
No, I think we are all agreeing that there's a huge potential for women, especially in the automotive space, to excel themselves and show the core values and the the enthusiasm that we can work with. So I think the market is still not situated with women in high-end roles, but I think as we are emerging from a technology standpoint and from a vendor's standpoint, I think there's more and more opportunities down the road, and I'm really hopeful for 2022. And I feel like the technology will definitely enable more women to be involved in holding managerial roles in automotive space. So I'm really hopeful for that.
Thank you. Jeff, any final thoughts? We're out of time.
Well, basically from the comments, everybody, thank you for joining us. But from the comments that were made, I picture 2 and 3 points. I think what has to happen is top down. We're spending a lot of time working on the masses. So, as Janice, you mentioned Ontario, this legislation. Well, I've always experienced when people have to do something, they don't do it. And you have to get the people up high, trickle down, get the leaders to think that way, be they men or women, and then get it down to people. And certainly things like getting one person to take their diversity training is absolutely appalling. And it is a top-down thing. I think the people that we've had on here today, ladies, you've been tremendous, and I'd hate to be locked into a wrestling with you guys. You'd kill me. So thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Sandy, Christine, Sopo, Janice, you guys, we really appreciate your support in the last year, 2 years, and 2022 will be a better year for everybody. I guarantee.
And all the best. Have yourself a great week. Merry Christmas or whatever you celebrate, and Happy New Year. Thanks for coming on.
Take care.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. Great to see you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.
You too.
Happy New Year.
Keep going in 2022. Great to see you guys.
Can make it happen.